This is continuing on with our GeoSync GO Plus webinars. We're going to focus in on building and managing styles today. We're going to look at what's involved in that process. GeoSync GO Plus is the newest interface that we have in terms of GeoSync Go Cloud. It is really becoming the primary focus, user focus for GeoSync Go for mapping. You will know this week there was an update put out, GeoSync Go Plus, with a slightly modified user interface. So the screen shots today as we go through will reflect that new updated interface. Functionality is still the same, just looks a little bit different. So I guess we start. What is a style, or GeoSync Go Plus style? And the easy answer for that is it's a map symbol for point, polyline, or polygon. It's a customizable feature, so it can be modified to meet your needs. And it's used to define a map layer. So a map layer is a source, a data source plus a style equal a map layer. So symbols are really important for us because they help us visualize the data in the way that we want to do that, and the way that's useful for our workflows. So if we define a style in GeoSync Go Plus, one thing that's important to know is the style includes both a marker and a polyline polygon component all the time. So if you look here on the right here, a style will always have a polygon or a polyline type feature plus a point feature. That's always the case, even if you're only going to use one. So as an example, with a point layer, if you were going to symbolize your water valves, example, you don't really need any kind of a polyline or a polygon component, but the style that you design will have that. It just will not be. It will be ignored by the feature when it's drawn. But whenever we design a style, both of those components are present. The things that we can do with the style is also we can modify and customize the colors, the size, and the opacity. And opacity is its transparency, because often it's helpful if we can. Sometimes we want those lines and points to be really solid, and sometimes we'd like to be able to have those a little bit more transparent, where we can see through those into the background. So you have options to be able to change the opacity also of any of the features. The style also includes label action settings to tell what's going to happen when you mouse over that particular symbol. So if you hover over the symbol, the options for that is a label will pop up if you hover over the symbol, or you can say I never want to see a symbol, or you can have it force the symbol to be turned on at all times, or a label be turned on at all times. And again, if you have a point layer, you don't need to worry about the polyline polygon settings, because it's going to ignore those when it draws and renders the symbol or the style. So if we look at markers, as we get into those, we actually have two groups of markers that are available, and these would be part of the marker type. I'm going to define those as group 1. We'll call those simple markers. And then group 2 are standard markers. And if you look at the list here on the right, this kind of gives a list. As you go to the symbol type, when we get into that, you'll have these options, which you have these what we call simple markers, square, circle, and diamond. And then we have standard markers, which are a circle marker, square marker, star marker, and pentagon marker. You can always add an icon to any marker. For example, we'll look to customize a circle to be able to have some sort of additional markings on that circle. Then you can add an icon, and to do that, there is a dialog that opens up with a lot of different icon options, and you can pick any of those to add to your marker. So group 1 markers, you can change the color, the size, the opacity, and the label settings. Color 2 or Group 2, you can change the color, opacity, and the label, but you can't change the size. And that's what's really different between Group 1 and Group 2. Group 2 markers are already pre-sized. The size is already set. The Group 2 standard markers are the quick, easy way just to grab a marker and get a point on the screen. It's very quick and easy, and doesn't require much customization at all. So we look at those markers a little bit more. The Group 1 simple markers are either going to be a square, a circle, or a diamond, and then again we have an icon that can be put in the center of those to help customize those symbols. But those are the simple markers. So you can resize those, you can change the color of those, you can change the icon setting on those. The standard markers end up being a circle marker, square marker, star marker, and pentagon marker, and these are just kind of standard web flag type markers. They're always the same size, but you can change these items. You can change the color, and you can change the icon that's in the center of those for display purposes, but you can't change the size on those markers. So when we look at our polyline and polygon styles, those are both the same. So when we start working with polyline and polygon, we really are doing the same setup. The difference is a fill. Polygon is a closed feature, and it will have a fill to go along with it. The polyline is typically would be like a water line or a sewer line or a road center line. It's an open-ended line, does not close back on itself. They're really the same except for the fill. But the things that we can modify on a polyline and a polygon include the stroke, and stroke means width. Those are the two terms are synonymous. You can change the width of the if you will, the outline or the line itself. You can also change the stroke or outline color. You can modify the fill color. You can change the opacity again. You can decide whether it's the level of transparency and how visible the fill is. You can also change the opacity of the stroke or the outline also. And then you can set up some options for labeling. So if we look at this, we have three options over here. We have the same data with the style set up a little bit differently. So these are polygons, or these would be parcel lines or parcels. And so in this case, we have a green fill and a dark gray outline. We have a blue fill and an orange outline. And then an example here where we basically we have a transparent fill. We just have the outline shown. The same data. All we're doing is just changing the settings and the style. And when you change the settings in the style, then the map, the next time the map opens, it will reflect those changes. It doesn't require any change to the data at all. It's only reflective of the style. We can also do a combination with a polygon and a marker. So in this case, we have a combination with a marker, and this can be helpful also at time to time, because we can place a marker at the centroid or a marker at the midpoint of the line. Sometimes that's helpful for display purposes. And this is a good example of that. Still the same, a parcel, and we have also added a marker at the center of that. For visibility purposes, makes it easier for someone to select that particular polygon. Also, for the mouse over, it can be helpful to do that. So we have a combination of a polyline polygon with a marker. And again, remember, our style includes both of those, so that this is representative of one style. So let's go through kind of the process of how we would go and get into our style setup or style management tool. So the first thing you're going to need to be able to do is sign in to your GeoSync GO Plus app. And you can do that either from you can do this from your phone, you can do it from your tablet, you can do it from your desktop browser also. The first thing that we would do is we would sign in with our username and password. In order to make changes to any of the styles, you need to have administrative privileges. So the username that you use and password has to be assigned as an admin, a GeoSync GO Plus app admin user, in order to make the changes. But you sign in and submit, and then this will open up your home screen. And the home screen has a list of your available projects. But what we wanted to go to, we want to go back to our account where we can get to our management settings. So we select on the account option, and that brings us back to our management tools. We've been through these tools over the last few weeks. I think most of these we've been through already, but in this case we can look at our account, users, sources, styles, which we're looking at today, and then layers, tile sets, searches, and projects. So we're going to focus in on styles, which allows us to create and edit symbols for map display. So once we get back to this management screen, we would select styles, and then that's going to show us what styles we currently have available in our account. And so in this case, you can have as many styles as you want, and you typically will you'll typically go ahead and set up styles for all the different features that are important to you for your different maps. So if you're a water utility, you likely would have a style for a tank, a style for a valve, style for a hydrant. You would then have a style for a water line. You might have a style for water zone boundaries or some other type of feature in place. And you can have multiple styles for valves. You may have different types of valves. You may have a style for each type of valve. You may have different hydrants that you want to render in different ways. So you could have a style for each one of those features in the way that you would want to display that feature. Again, even on our water lines, if we wanted to display those based on if we wanted to have a different color for the different size lines, then we need to create a separate style for each one of those different line sizes. So once we have a style, we can select on any one of the styles and edit that and make changes to that at any time. But to create a new style, if we're going to do one for a new style, then we would select the new button, which will open us up into a brand new screen for customizing our style. So once we get to the new style, this would be typically the process in order to create one. Is we're going to give it a name, and regardless if you were doing this for a polyline or polygon, you still have to come to the marker screen because you got to set the style name. The default is new style. You give it a name such as water valve might be an example. Then your marker type, which we've been through, you pick the type of marker, either a simple marker or one of our standard markers. Set the color, and the way this works is you select on this line. It opens up to a tool that will let you pick the color that you want. You can have any color you want in terms of the marker. The marker opacity, or how much transparency that has, is set here. If this is set to 1, it is completely solid. You can't see through it. If you move this line over to 0, then it will be completely transparent and invisible. So at 0 on this line, the opacity means you would not be able to see the symbol at all. The marker would not show up. If you want to have some visibility on that, about halfway will give you, the ability to see the marker, but also see any of the map information below that. Our marker icon from here, if you select on this box, will open up and give you a dialog to let you go through and pick a different marker icon that can be placed on top of the marker itself. So an example, we might want some sort of a triangle marker and then or triangle icon that we want to put on top of our square marker. And then we can set the icon color from here also. It'll pop down a list or a color box for you to pick the color that you want. You can set that. Marker size and icon size can be set independently. And you just have to really go through and just kind of play with that to get the size that you want and the way that you want it. So you can change these up or down, and then change the icon size also, so they will adjust independently. The clickable option says, can I identify that particular marker? If clickable is not checked, then you won't be able to actually click on that particular marker and identify the attributes that go with it. So typically you want this to be clickable so we can select we can actually select the marker. The label display, you have the options never, so it would never show a label, or hover, which means when I move the mouse over that particular symbol, it will pop up a label, or always, which means the symbol will be on all the time. You can be careful always. If you have lots and lots of features, it's not a good idea to turn the label to always. It's better to have it to hover. Using the label always works much better if you have a smaller data set. So this is the screen that we would set up the marker part of our style. If you want to preview that, if you click on preview, it's going to give you a preview of what you've designed. Once you make those changes, you need to save those changes, and then that particular style will be updated. Once the style is saved and updated, then all layers that are using that style will also be updated. So as an example, if I have 3 different maps that have been set up, all of which have water valves on those, and my water valve for some reason had been assigned a color of red, and then I realized I really want that water valve to have a light blue color. I change the color on my water valve style and save it. Then the next time I open any of those maps, my water valve style, or the symbol that shows up on the map for water valves, is going to change from red to light blue. So let's look now at the Polyline Polygon portion of the style. So again, we have the marker now just selected on the tab for Polyline and Polygon, and then I'm going to go through and I can set up the settings for how I want that, either the polyline, say for a water line, or a polygon for a boundary or a parcel to be configured. First thing I would do is set up my stroke. Stroke color, again, is the outline color. It would be the polyline color, or it's going to be the outline of the polygon, and we can set the color for that. We can also assign a fill color, and those can be different. The opacity, the transparency level that we want of our outline can be configured, and then also the fill opacity. So often on the fill, particularly, we want to be able to see through that and see what's underneath that particular polygon. So we can make adjustments to the level of opacity or level of transparency that we want for that particular feature. The stroke pattern will give you some options as to whether you would want the line dashed or solid, or there's a couple of other options in there also. The stroke weight will be the width of the line, and that's adjustable depending on how heavy you want either the outline of the polygon or the outline of the polyline to be. You can also make some adjustments in terms of smoothing factors, which will, if you have a lot of vertices in your line, you can smooth that out a little bit by making adjustments to the smooth factor. For the most part, you would not need to make those adjustments at all. Just leave it as it's set. The label display, again, will determine if you hover over top of the either the polyline polygon symbol, whether you're going to see a label pop up or not. Other options that we have: the stroke visible. Do you want the outline visible? Do you want the fill to be visible? So if this is unchecked, then you will not see the fill at all. Clickable means you can click on either the polyline or the polygon and be able to see the attributes. And then because each style also includes a marker, if you check hide marker, it will automatically hide the marker portion of the style. And again, from here you can preview this as you work through that, as you make those changes. And then once you save that style, it's going to go through any layer that's currently using that style will be updated, and the map would be updated from there, which can be is really nice in that as I'm making changes to the style, I can very interactively update and modify my map, and then check it out, try it out, until I get it the way that I really want it to be. So in using the style, I guess the purpose of the style is to pair it with a source so we can create a layer. And it's all about visualizing data. So once the style has been created, then the thing we're going to do next is we're going to go to our layers, and then from our layer settings is where there's an option under layers for us to be able to select the style. And once we assign the style to this particular layer, then any data, any place that layer has been added to a project, then that data will be rendered on the map using the style that we've designed. And remember, you can also set up conditional styles, which would allow you to render, say, water lines based on size with different colors and line widths or line stroke weights if you wanted to do that. And this is where you would set that up. You could assign those when you create the layer based on, say, field size equal 8, size equal 10, size equal 12, and then you have to have a style design for each one of those if you want to render those. If you want to render the map or you want to render the water lines based on those different styles. But the purpose of the style is to pair with the source so we can create a layer. And then ultimately we want to deploy a map, and the map itself, the whole experience of using the map is really largely dependent on the styles that you've set up. So in the example, ultimately we have a map put together, and then we have a different style for the different features that we can use then for our workflows, either for identifying information in the field or for capturing information if we're actually doing inspections or some sort of mapping using GeoSync GO Plus. That completes our overview of creating and managing styles. The best way to do that is to go in and actually just create some styles and play around with that. Try that with until you get a handle on how the different options modify and how that works. And then what you'll land on is you'll find certain style settings that meet your need, and once you do that, you can save as many different styles as you want for your maps. You can contact us if you have any questions.